you doing, everybody? Another Thursday, always amazing. If you haven't yet, go check out Crimson's new Discord. Pretty nice. But that's enough of the plug-in now. It's another Thursday. Welcome to Gear Talks. I'm your host, Cody Booker, as always. Call me Cab, call me whatever you want. Call me Booker, call me Cody. I really don't care. It's all up to you. So, today is the first day, or first week, I should say, where I'm going to be taking the videos and focusing really heavy on 5 up until we get to E3. That's why there was no polls. If you watched the last video about Prescott, go watch it. It's amazing. You would know that I am now going to take a break from polling, and it's going to be straight up just Gears 5 videos I'll be coming out with and what it's going to be. Same for Gear Tactics, and maybe a few about Gears Pop. It's not that I'm excited or not excited about Gears Pop. I'm not as interested as the other two. I'll probably make a video about what I'm expecting for Hivebusters and probably something about the book that will be coming out. I believe it's Ascension it's called. If not, I'll put the name down here. If I don't put anything, I got it right. Yay me. So if you don't understand what the title of the video is, the 4 factions pretty much in Gears 5, what it means is that there are factions that have been around since the original Gears. Now I'm not talking about the UIR, the COG, yes, because we'll be getting into that, but throughout the Gears of War original trilogy, we had 4 factions that were prevalent. Not all of them around at once, because in the beginning, even though, and we'll get to this one too, the Lambent were around technically, it wasn't until the end of 2 and definitely in 3 when we actually had them make their actual appearance to us as a faction. So the 4 factions that we had in the original Gears trilogy was the Coalition of Order Government, the COG. You could also say the humankind, kind of, or the you could say civilized humankind. We had the Locust, which were the enemies of the humans, just in general. Lambent, which were pretty much the enemy of everything. Their goal was to pretty much literally take over the world. And the final group we had were the Stranded. Now, the reason these 4 factions kind of work well is that all of them are enemies of one another. No one's really an ally. The only time there's ever been an allied force was against the Lambent, and that was really just for survival. It wasn't for any other reason. In the books, I believe it's the ending of Anvil's Gate, end of Anvil's Gate, because Coalition's End goes into the end of the Coalition. That pretty much talks about an event where the Stranded end up helping out Coalition. They're both humans, and vice versa. So that's really the only time you see them together, and now and then they'll trade, but they're not allies at all. The Stranded make it very well known they're not allies. So, going from there into the current Gears of War trilogy, we'll say, because there's probably going to be a 6. I'll make a video next week about how a trilogy structure goes, blah, blah. That's next week's video. We currently have 3 factions in the current Gears of War trilogy, or games that are going on right now. The current 3 we have are the Outsiders, we have the new Coalition, and we have the Swarm. But we don't yet have a 4th member in this pretty much quartet of enemies, you could say. Now, before we get into what the 4th group could be, let's go over what we already know about the current 3 groups we have. Starting off with the Outsiders, we currently know that their leader, or former leader, was Reyna. Now, the Outsiders aren't just a singular group. There are probably other outsider groups around. There's probably trade between the groups. I very much doubt that the Outsiders are just one collective group. I believe they could all come together, but they're somewhat scattered into different areas around. I don't want to say the globe, because I don't think they would be that far from one another. But I am going to guess, as far as we know, there's possibly more. But I'm just going to focus on the group that we know of right now, which had Oscar, Reyna, Kate, I was about to call him Clayton, but no, Gary Carmine. So we know that they're around, and their former leader was Reyna. Right now, we don't know the leader, but I'm going to safely say Oscar. One more thing you have to keep in mind, though, is for all we know, it could be, if this is the only group of outsiders, they've become a part of the Coalition fully now, and it's just the Coalition, and there are no outsiders. But again, I don't really see, the outsiders are fully gone now. I think there are other smaller groups that are around, much like the Stranded, which is kind of the role they take up in this new franchise portion of Gears of War. How the Stranded were somewhat scattered. I want to say the Outsiders are somewhat scattered too, just more groupish and willing to trade with each other without a lot of internal conflict. For the new COG, we already know that the leader is Jin. And I don't think anything crazy is happening. I know that Jin's probably still sitting up on her high chair in charge. I don't think there's anything else leadership-wise we need to think of when it comes to the new cog. I don't really see who would be in charge of that other than Jin, because she is the chairman now. So straightforward, Jin's leading the new cog. Now, moving on from there, we can jump into the Swarm. Now, this one's more interesting because also for the Swarm, their former leader was also Reyna. But Reyna, she wasn't really a leader. She was more like, I mean, as far as we know, she could have been assimilated more into the Swarm and actually became the leader. But she still had her own normal mind, so she wasn't really like trying to control them to kill her own daughter. As far as we knew what Reyna's position was at the time, she worked more like a living battery for the Swarm. Because the Swarm, how they're built up, it's somewhat of a hive mind system on a low scale. Like, they're able to probably kinetically or mentally think to one another, but probably in really short range, and they need to be near each other. I'm guessing that where Reyna was hooked up was kind of like, I don't want to say an epicenter for everything, or else if you take that out, their thought process is gone for good. But I want to guess that once you snip out Reyna, instead of like all of them having like a higher level of intellect and thinking with one another, for instance, Marcus, he was being transformed pretty much when he was in that pod. He was in their pretty much mind for the hive mind. He was in there. He was thinking what they were thinking. Now, when they got him out of there, I don't want to say he still has that, but they cut his ties pretty much. He was back to his normal self. Reyna, however, was hooked up to that thing. There was no getting her out. But yeah, they probably have a higher intelligence when they have their leader, and that's probably why they're looking for a leader right now in Kate. So right now with the Swarm, there is no leader, but like a very low-level hive mind setup is probably the best there is. Now for the fourth group, and this one becomes a little harder because of the fact that with how the setup for the original Gears was, we knew about Lambency somewhat with the Wretches in 1. We definitely knew about it by the end of 2, and we fully knew everything we needed to know about the Lambent by the end of 3. So we really didn't get a large introduction until the second game in that trilogy. So I'm guessing in 5 by the end, if there is going to be a fourth, which I very heavily believe there is, there's probably going to be some type of clue or a given of what the enemy is going to be, like the outside enemy, because I don't think it's going to be a straight one-on-one brawl between humanity and the Swarm. I don't think that's going to be what it is. So I do have some ideas I have here that could possibly fill in who this fourth enemy could possibly be. All right, so if you have watched my former videos, you know I have a few theories out there. I have 2 of them that are actually going to be mentioned here. Now, one of them starting off are the DeeBees. I think that the DeeBees could possibly be, I don't know how Baird hooked them up or if they're just walking, talking robots and nothing more. But I would want to believe he has like a central AI that's like at least moving them where, and he programmed it and he's got them doing what he needs. So what if the AI got corrupted or infected by the Swarm? Because it seems like they have that ability by what we see in the Gears 5 trailer. So what if the DeeBees become their own personal thing? Like they get infected to the point where it's like, we still know that you guys are the enemies, the Swarm, but we also know mankind is now our enemies. And it's just one big old bloodbath. The DeeBees are out just for like machines to take over, because we haven't gotten that in Gears yet. We've never gotten like human versus machine. It's always been human versus non-human, or in some cases human versus human, but not that often. So the DeeBees could be a possible fourth enemy that could arise by the 5th or 6th game in the Gears franchise. Now, the next idea I have is kind of a fun one, because I mentioned this one before too in 25 years later in that one. So I guess I have 3 theories that I'm working off of here. What if Aaron Griffin comes back and he's leading, like, all the Stranded came together at one point and they're like the new group that's out there, the new Stranded, you could say, but it has a central leader instead of all of them split up. And it's Griffin leading all of them. Now, Griffin would probably be in his 60s, maybe 70s at this point. If he was younger than I think, then maybe his 50s. But Griffin, he goes out, he gets all of them together, he has beef with Marcus, and we see that play out in 5, because we never got a resolution between those two. We pretty much just got a middle finger and just flying away. Not flying away, just railing away is probably the better word. So if Griffin came back, he's leading the new Stranded, and they're against everyone too. The new Stranded, however, under him would probably be a little bit more fierce, and they would probably go out and they would, instead of just trade or anything, they'd kill on the spot because they know that the Cog's weak, they know that the Outsiders don't have that many numbers, and they know that the Swarm, that's something that just needs to be taken care of. They know that. So Griffin would probably lead out a major insurgency of just the new Stranded. I don't know what you would call them, but my guess is that Griffin could make a new appearance as the 4th faction leader. Going on to the next one now. My third theory that I had pretty much just in the wings that I brought out in a video. What if the Locusts are still alive? Think about that for a moment. You're going to say, well, no, they've been eradicated. We see them coming back already as the Swarm. Hold on now a minute. Just hold on now. Grab your boots and put them in the corner. Don't be putting them on and coming after me. Here's what. We know that Adam's machine, it pretty much stretched around the world. Now, here's the thing. And I mentioned this in the Locust video. I'll make it short and sweet in case you want to go watch that one. I'll put links to everything in the description. So, I work in radio. Now, I know this for a fact. Radio waves, the further out they go, they get weaker. So that goes for any type of wave out there. Here's the thing. The way that the waves were coming off of his machine, there's a chance they can make it around the entire world. In fact, I believe we saw they made it around the entire world. But I can guarantee by the time they hit the opposite end of the world, the waves will be weaker. Whatever he's shooting off will not be as strong. We know that the Locusts were also in Groznia territory originally with the UIR situation that involved Karn. I don't know what the map looks like. I don't think anyone truly knows the map except for the creators. Let's say Groznia is on the other end of the world and the wave goes off. It's going to be weaker hitting them in Groznia than it will be in the main, the whole, I'm Mira, I'm going to take this down. Oh no, we're Team Delta, we're going to stop you. So, we saw the Red Desert in the trailer for 5. We saw UIR, pretty much old tech, old military personnel, skeletons, we saw all that. What if the Red Desert is in Groznia territory and the Locusts just so happen to still be over there? Wave goes off, it doesn't really reach them that well, or it doesn't affect them to the highest extent where they're still able to live. That's where they currently are. They're hiding out in the Red Desert. They're still alive. Just a theory now. Just a theory. We see that Kate and Del are in that area. Kate's possibly the next leader of the Swarm. We know that Mira had some kind of psychic connection. She comes across the Locusts. The Locusts feel she is the next queen, or she sees the necklace or the symbol. They treat her as royalty and they take her side. Now, I know I said 4th faction and the factions normally didn't get along, but if you look at the Cog and Stranded, now and then, very rarely differences can be put aside. What if they still hate humanity, but they recognize she's the queen and she says, we'll help you, screw everyone else, Del's with you, we'll make an exception because you vouch for him. Locusts could still be around, not in high number. We don't know their age, how long they live. We know they've been around for about 100 years, but we also know that they talk about their past like it's ancient, so I want to guess their lifespan isn't that long. So maybe the Locusts are still around. I don't know. Maybe. That's the one theory. Side note, I'm going to go off on a mini tangent. That's the one theory I'm really riding, hoping Gears 5 is going to deliver. The Locusts are somewhat, in a way, still around, and they've got beef with the Swarm because they're like, we are the true creatures of this world. You're nothing. You're not our evolution. You're just pretty much a mistake of you coming back, or something like that. I fully believe the Locusts are coming. Anyway, getting off that tangent. Let's continue on. Now, this one's a little bit odder, but Scorpio, Team Scorpio with Hivebusters, the new preview pages came out for that last week, and I kind of want to say this is a possibility. We know that there was issues with Settlement 2. We don't know the full extent or what happened. I want to guess Settlement 2 maybe got it in their ideas of like, hey, instead of just this one country, why don't we split off and we slowly build up our own country? Not to go against the COG in any horrible way, but like, we'll found our own areas and we'll become our own thing. Jin, kind of wanting to keep all 100% power over everything, wipes them out, and that's the issue with Settlement 2. Maybe they wanted to go against the COG and become their own nation or something like that. So, that leads me into this. We know that settlements are a decent size, and I would like to believe that all the settlements at least have connections with one another. What if the settlements all splinter off at one point and become their own, not even nation, but their own faction and group. So the settlers become their own entity, kind of. Because I remember looking at the preview pages, the description and everything for Hivebusters, and it got me a little confused because at one point I think I saw the word settlement, and I know it was talking about an area, not just an actual settlement area, but it makes you really think, like, with Hivebusters in the book leading into 5, what are the chances that that's where, like, the spawn of the 4th faction will come from? It's the settlers, except now they're going to be named something else. Like, I'll go on a limb, new UIR, I don't know. Because they would believe in the same thing as the UIR, but they go by what they believe in, what they're building up. So, long story short, the settlers become the 4th faction. They're their own thing, they're their own nation, and they're playing hardball and they're against everybody. Or maybe they do play along and they play with the cog here and there, and they're like, okay, we're our own nation, even though you hate us, we're still willing to work together. Or even towards the outsiders, if the outsiders are still their own thing and haven't gone with the cog yet. So, I want to say maybe the settlers become their own faction. I don't know yet. That's just a little bit up in the air. So those are my 4 faction ideas of what we could still get for enemies or another group we have to deal with. The DeeBees, the new Stranded, the settler idea, or maybe the Locusts are still around in some way. Again, these are all just ideas. I have nothing that says any of this is actually a thing. The only thing I can vouch for is the Locust idea, because we know that the Locusts were on different parts of the globe. And like I said, I have a decent understanding in my job profession of how just waves in general work. And I can tell you right now, even if it hit them, I do believe if the strength is not strong enough, then it's not going to work. Adam got turned to ash, and he was literally right next to it. If you go all the way to Anvil Gate, they were getting crystallized, and they were like heavy lambent. So I don't know the situation with that. Thank you guys for watching. I very much appreciate it. I want to keep going on this gravy train of Gears 5 up until E3, and then I'm probably going to go with it a little bit afterwards too, just because E3 will be like the big bit of news that we've all been waiting for. That is what really will be pushing me through. Hivebusters, I'll be coming out with reviews when we get those. The book, I'm a slow reader, so it's going to be a while before I get that. I still even haven't finished the slab yet. Anyway, thank you. Like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. I should say us, because Sean's a good old friend of mine too. That helps me out with the dailies. Go and watch the dailies too if you like Let's Plays. We're working on some fun stuff. You guys have a great one. I'm going to go talk to Crimson again. Have a good one.